Hi everyone, thank you for watching my previous videos. In my previous session, I have covered the topic on installation of PostgreSQL on Ubuntu server. You can find the link in my description. Today, I am going to discuss on managing the instances or clusters on Ubuntu and Red Hat Linux server. Below are the points which I am going to show in my demo. Before starting my demo, as I said in my previous video, I have installed multiple versions of PostgreSQL binaries and showed how to create and drop clusters. Now my question here is that how you will come to know how many versions of binaries installed on a specific server. Let me go to my DB server. Okay, let us go to /user lib PostgreSQL. Just list it down here. You can find the versions whatever I installed on the server. Okay, now let me show what are all the clusters I have created and running on the server. Just give pg_ls clusters. This is specific to Ubuntu only. pg_create cluster, drop cluster, list cluster, all this will work on Ubuntu only. It won't work on Red Hat Linux server. Okay, this is very useful output. You can see the cluster version, cluster name and data file location, log file location. Okay, the default location for data files, if you have not defined the data file location when you are creating a cluster, the default location will be /var lib PostgreSQL. Right now there are no clusters defined. Let me create one cluster without data file location. pg_create cluster. The version I want to use app1, whatever the version we can use, there is no problem. Now the cluster has been created. Okay, you can see the directory now with 10. Go to 10. You can see the directory called app1. Okay, so let me start the cluster. Okay, so the next point of what I am trying to show here is the location of the configuration files. In Ubuntu, the configuration files will be available in /etc. Okay, I have clusters running with version 12 and 10. Okay, so let me go to 12. You can see two clusters here, app3 and app4, right? See here, 10, 12, 10. Version 10 is having app1, version 12 is having app3 and app4. Let me go to app3. You can find configuration files here. Each cluster will have its own configuration files. Okay, these are the configuration files mostly we will use, like PostgreSQL.conf and pg_hba. Very rarely we will use pg_ident.conf. Okay, the other one is start.conf, which will not be available in Red Hat Linux server. Okay, just cat this, you will understand what exactly defined over here. There are three parameters available here. One is auto, the other one is manual, the last one is disabled. Okay, if you define auto, means if you restart the server, the cluster will come up automatically. Manual means if you restart the cluster won't come up automatically. You need to start the cluster manually using pg_ctl cluster or PostgreSQL. The third one is disabled, especially when you are doing any kind of maintenance activities, right? People don't want to come up the cluster automatically, even if you restart the server, or if someone try to manually start the cluster, right? And they don't want to come up the cluster. Okay, now let me show the location of the log file. Anyway, you can easily find like pg_ls clusters. As I said, it will show very useful information. You can find the location of your log file. Okay, now let me show the activities like starting the cluster, stopping the cluster. Okay, first let me show what is the status of my cluster. It is up and running and the process ID is 3173. Okay, let me stop my cluster. See the status, it's not running, right? And start using this command. Now the cluster is up. Just check the status. The process ID is 3234. Sometimes people will use restart, that is nothing but stop and starting of the cluster. Just check the status. The process ID got changed, right? Sometimes we need to reload the cluster as and when we are doing any parameter changes in PostgreSQL.conf and pg_hbm. Let me show that reloading of that. I have reloaded. Okay, the process ID will be same. Okay, but it will read the whatever the parameters changed in pg_hba.conf and PostgreSQL.conf file. Okay, let me show the demo on Red Hat Linux server. Okay, this is my Red Hat Linux server. Go to /user lsfnlt pg* and these are all the versions I have installed on my Red Hat Linux server. Okay, and one more important point here is like it is a bit tricky to list all the clusters whatever you configured on the server. If the cluster is up and running, yes, you can definitely find like systemctl status post grep post master. So there are 2 clusters are up and running. Okay, whereas I have 3 clusters actually. Okay, so in order to identify that, what I did, right, the moment I logged into Postgres user, it will list all the cluster information here. For that, what I did, I have hard coded in .profile. Okay, so the first application, its data file location is this and the log file location is this, and for second application this is the data file location, this is the log location. For application 3 this is the data file location and log file location. And in Red Hat Linux for configuration files you don't have separate location like /etc, which is the default location in Ubuntu. Okay, the configuration files will be located in the same location where your data files are present. Okay, now let me show the demo of starting of my cluster right now my 11 and 12 clusters are up and running. Let me show that. Okay, for that what I did, I have to define few parameters. I need to export that. Okay, I'm exporting this, I'm exporting this. Okay, if you see PL version, PESQL hyphen version, it will tell the version is 10.14. basically you may ask me why you are doing that. Okay, I will show that. Let me log in again. If I see version of my client, it is showing 9.2.24 because in my server I have version 9, 10, 11, 12. So now I have to deal with version 10. So I need to export the respective parameters. Okay, let me export the parameters whatever I defined. Okay, PGCTL -d, give the data file location. If you want to see the status, you can see it is not running. Let me start. It has been started. You can check the status. The process ID is 29077. Okay, sometimes people may use restart command. Let me show that. Instead of stop and start, they will use restart. Okay, it has been restarted. You can see the status. The process ID now is 513. Okay, for some of the parameters, if you want to modify in PostgreSQL.conf and pg_hpa.conf, right, it requires just reload. You no need to restart the cluster. So in order to reload the cluster, you just need to use the command like this. Okay, my cluster has been reloaded. You can see the status. There won't be change in process ID, but whatever the parameters we changed, that will come into effect. I would like to mention a couple of points here. While stopping or shutting down the instance, we have two extra options along with stop. Okay, the first option is fast, the second option is immediate. Without any option, it is going to be normal shutdown. In this mode, server process will not allow any new connections, as well as it will wait all the existing users to complete their work and all of the sessions to terminate. Now let me discuss about stop with fast option. It is nothing but fast shutdown. In this mode, the server will not allow any new connections and will send signal to all existing server processes, which will cause them to abort their current transactions and exit promptly. Meantime, the server will wait for all the server process to exit and finally it shuts down. The other option is stop with immediate, which is nothing but immediate shutdown. In this case, the master process will send signal to all child processes and the master process will terminate immediately, which is nothing but instance crash. So this option has to be used in emergency situations. The server or instance requires crash recovery upon next startup. The other point what I would like to discuss about is checkpoint. During checkpoint time, all the dirty buffers which are there in shared buffer will be flushed to disk. The moment we execute stop command, PostgreSQL will do a shutdown checkpoint, so that it will make sure that the server will come up quickly and cleanly. For example, in a busy systems, assume that there are more dirty buffers in cache, then shutdown checkpoint will take longer time and will cause delay in shutting down the server. To avoid such situations, issue manual checkpoint before execution of stop command, so that shutdown checkpoint will have much less work to do. Next, as a summary, as a DBA, we should know the location of all the files like binary files, data files, configuration files and log files. Okay, with this I am closing my session. If you like my today's session, please like, share and subscribe my channel. Please post your feedback in comment section. I will review and get back to you. Thank you.